Coach, congratulations. Open it up here, the opening statement, and then we'll open up for questions.
Total team win. Obviously, you had guys who scored the ball with Jaden Brownell, who was awesome, and then obviously Ryland stuff there late. He's been beat up, and we had to sit him a while. I didn't even know if he'd be able to finish the game if we didn't sit him a while. He was so tired, because he's banged up with his knee right now. And he came back in and took over again, which was awesome to see. Some guys that won't get mentioned. Isaiah West comes in there and plays 12 minutes, has 5 steals. I mean, that's won't show up. Everybody not in the stands may not say, hey, man, Isaiah West, he went on for 20 points, but we don't win that game without Isaiah. Josh Holloway came in there defensively, was just a monster. Story of the game for us, in spite of everything, and we're sluggish, and you know how it was. It was just one of those heavyweight fights, and it looked like the 12th round starting in the second quarter. Both teams were gassed, had tough games last night. Story of the game, though, is we had 18 steals in a game. That's pretty remarkable. That's every other minute we're getting a steal, and we forced 23 turnovers, which I felt was probably the difference in the game. They out-rebounded us the first half. We kind of cleaned it up the second half a little bit more, but that's still differential. Obviously, we had to have it, and that's probably was the difference in the game. That's a very good team, though. I mean, they're a great team. They're solid. They could compete as good as anybody in our league, that's for sure. Very well coached, organized, tough, don't wilt. Our guys just had a little more gas in the tank there at the end, I felt.
You mentioned Ryland, 19 points. He went on an 8-0 run by himself there at the end. How comforting is it for you as a coach knowing you got that kind of guy out there, a 6-year senior out there, kind of leading your group and stepping up when his team needs him the most?
I mean, he's the best, most cerebral player I've ever been around. It's just, I'm just so glad that he came to school here. He's just such a great player, but just a remarkable person, and a remarkable mind for the game of basketball. He's a better coach than all of our coaches right now. I don't mean that. What do you feel like going to here? And it's just every time we go to it, he's right. And it couldn't happen to someone who's more team. No one is more team than Ryland Jones. He don't care if he scores 2 points or he scores 20 points. And people say, yeah, Coach, I hear that's Coach. That's not Coach talk. And I promise you, in college basketball, there's very few of those guys left. So, for him to have this success, I mean, it's deserving. And you got to love it because, hey, we had two Utah guys here. And I know if they went back home for Christmas or something, they probably wouldn't hear the end of that one. So I'm glad they got the win here.
Coach, these past 2 games, y'all seem to be able to outlast them on the court. Do you credit that to just the work you've done in the offseason?
We practice really hard. There's no doubt on that. People would say we practice too hard sometimes, but everything we do is competitive, and I'd say that we win a lot of games because we're pretty well conditioned and we're used to being in those scenarios. Everything we do is for blood and practice, and so we may not be the prettiest, but I know we compete, and I know we know what it takes to win. Right? We got to clean up a lot. There's no doubt on that. We got to clean up a lot of things, but I got to do a better job coaching. I'm figuring some things out with this group, though. I learned a lot in that game, how we need to sub and things that are going to help us going forward. And so I'm glad we get a day off for Thanksgiving. Everybody's got to do better, but I know I can do better for this group, and I think I see a way to help them more than I am. And I think when we do that, I think we can take the next step. And, these guys really aren't blame shifters in any way. They don't blame shift. They take responsibility. And our coaches, we got to take responsibility where we can improve to help them put them in the best situations possible.
You just mentioned that you learned how to sub. Kind of expand on that. And what did you see maybe from that last game, and how did you approach that into this one?
Well, we got some we have some guys that are better defenders naturally, and other guys are better offensive players. I mean, that's just kind of how this team shakes. Sometimes you line up and you may have your best player, maybe your best defense player and best offensive player. But we got guys that will buy into coming in there on defense and really guarding. And what we can't do, we can't have soft defense. And so when we're on defense every time, we probably need to get our best guys that are going to fight and scrap on defense, period. And I don't care if that's the ball goes out of bounds the first possession. That's probably what we're going to start having to go to, because we can't afford to just play soft around the basket. And you saw some of that early. And so that's probably what we're going to end up going to. And then we got some guys that are obviously some great offensive players that when they're on the floor on offense, we score at a high rate. And we just have to buy in our team to that and saying, what is my strength, and let's play those strengths. And we did it when I coached back in the day in high school. That's how we played. We were on offense. The offense was in, the defense was in, and it worked because you had an unselfish group. And we'll probably have to start going to that a little bit earlier than we do. We did the past 2 games when we're down, and it works pretty well, right? We think we've probably outscored our opponents in the last 10 minutes of this game, the last 10 minutes of the game last night by a large margin. When we went to that, we're probably going to do that a lot earlier.
How would you say you guys combated their size? They had 9 first half offensive boards, only 4 in the second half. How would you do that? Your guys' effort on that?
Fatigue. I think, you know, we're not the smallest, but if you fight and we sub, trust our bench and all that, I mean, you know, fatigue is a bigger factor than people think. You know, I mean, it is. It's a 40-minute game. It's a marathon, not a sprint, and I think we always keep that in mind. I mean, you don't look back at the season and say, well, you know, y'all were down at halftime in all the games if you win every game, right? So it's a 40-minute game, and we play the marathon game, and I feel at the end, if we do that, we're going to be in a good spot to be successful. Thank y'all. Appreciate it.